to the worst sports channel on YouTube, Hot Garbage Sports, with me, Coach Ryan D. The Jets are the #1 team in Canada, Elliot Friedman says. The Jets will be #1 in their division, TSN writes, as a big hot take. Everyone is on the Jets bandwagon for the first time in 11 years as the powerhouse team that they should be, and they go ahead and drop 2 points to a child's AHL team called the Anaheim Ducks, who are in the middle of a rebuild. Awful. We're going to talk everything about the Jets game tonight. Should we panic? What was the good? What was the bad? What are the takeaways? We're going to talk about John Gibson because he absolutely stole this team. There's a new Hamburglar in town. We're going to talk about Cole Perfetti, all of your line combinations. Stick with us through the intro. Let's get after this, Jets fans. Come on. Chin up.
Here's Lemieux. The center penalty coming up. Look at Lemieux. Oh my God.
And if you're new to Hot Garbage Sports Jets and Ducks fan, go ahead, subscribe, smash that like button. We would love to have you here on our way to 5,000. We're going to cover all 82 Jets games for you. So fans, if you don't think this is a big deal, fair enough. Whatever lets you sleep easy at night. The Winnipeg Jets just lost 2 easy points to the worst team in the Pacific Division and the second worst team in the Western Conference in an absolute logjam Central Division where, yeah, if you want to go ahead and get first, which, you know, is a small percentage chance because the Colorado Avalanche are that good, you need to win these games. And if you want to stay in the playoffs in any kind of position where you're not playing the Avalanche or the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round, maybe the Oilers, you got to take these points. These are 2 points you absolutely cannot give up. They are critical points. So yes, you have all the reason in the world to be upset by this, but the people who are going to be most upset by this are the Jets themselves. Paul Maurice, Connor Hellebuck, all up and down the roster. Nobody is going to be happy with this one in Jets land. I guarantee you they are not saying, well, buck up, boys. That happens. Why? Well, let's give the credit where the credit is due to the Anaheim Ducks, but let's hit people with some truth. The Anaheim Ducks last year only scored 3 power play goals. That's it. They scored 2 tonight against the Jets. And we get it. What wasn't last year isn't this year, but it's a pretty good indicator of where we're going. Teams don't just magically make large leaps and bounds year over year. It takes time. John Gibson has been one of the worst goaltenders statistically in the NHL for the last 3 years. It was 4 years ago that Gibson had a relevant season, and he shows up this game looking like the John Gibson of old. And if he's going to be the John Gibson of old this year, Anaheim's going to make some noise. Anaheim also is the youngest team in the NHL. Their average age is like 22 years old, and they have more players under the age of 22 than any other team starting. I mean, McTavish, who ends up scoring on the Jets tonight, don't worry, we'll get to that goal, was going to be a healthy scratch. Now, it's not a bad thing to have such young players, but these players would likely be playing in the AHL on any other NHL team other than maybe the bottom 4. When you're in the middle of a rebuild like the Ducks are, full sail, full send rebuild. That's where the Ducks are right now. You end up playing your kids. Any other team, most of these kids don't make the roster. That's why guys like Perfetti are struggling. So when you have a veteran team that is supposed to be a cup contender like Winnipeg losing to a team that is in full rebuild that is likely a top team in the AHL, okay, I'm being a little harsh on the Ducks. NHL is very different from the AHL, so I'll take that one back for you, but it is a bottom team in the NHL. This becomes a problem. The Jets also end up becoming a little bit villainish, chippy, chirpy, if you will, a little bit dirty as well too. That is because when men of an average age of 28 to 29 years old like the Jets are losing to a team like the Ducks, it's not a pat on the bum and say, way to go, kid. They get in their face. And that hit from Andrew Kopp on Gibson, I mean, frankly, the Jets were in Gibson's kitchen all game. Gibson took 2 minor penalties. Those aren't good things for a team to do. This is not a positive indicator of a team when you got a guy like Kopp running the goalie. They're just trying to salvage something out of this game. It really is a desperation play. I'm not saying I don't like it. I love physical hockey. Scheifele hit, clean all day. We'll get to that too. The kids on the Ducks held their own in all of those scrums and pushed back because they are men. They are. They're kids among men, but they're men at the end of the day, and they're professional athletes. They're big, they're tough. They held their own against the Jets. And John Gibson, we said, Jets tried to get in his kitchen. He didn't let him in. He boarded up that door. He made his own waffles in his own kitchen. You couldn't get in Gibson's head, even though he got a little physical, couple punches here and there, couple penalties here and there. He stoned the Jets all night. He was mentally dialed into that game. 14 power play shots he stopped. So Gibson, number one reason the Ducks end up winning this game. The other reason the Ducks end up winning this game, when you got nothing to lose, you usually play pretty well. And when you got a team of kids, they usually listen pretty well, frankly, because they don't know any better. So the Ducks played systematically a great game. The second takeaway from this game is that the Jets really do miss Mark Scheifele. Mark Scheifele is the engine that drives the Jets. He's the franchise player for the Jets, even above Nick Ehlers. I'm going to get to Ehlers. Ehlers a phenomenal player. I'm not saying get rid of Ehlers. Don't read too much in between the lines. I'm saying Scheifele is that important to the Jets. Proof, Scheifele gets taken out by Matthew Tkachuk, who knows? They're all trash. He gets taken out by Matthew Tkachuk in the playoffs 2 years ago. The Jets go on to lose to the Flames in the bubble. Pretty tough to win without Scheifele. Then Scheifele lays that hit on Jake Evans, gets a 4-game suspension. The Jets didn't play too bad in game 1. They play atrocious game 2, 3, and 4, swept by the Habs, and they're gone. They can't play without Mark Scheifele. Mark Scheifele's gone for this game against one of the worst teams in the NHL. The Jets power play cannot score because it is missing Mark Scheifele, even though they had great looks. I'll get to the power play. It hurts. What does Kyle Connor say between the second and the third? We're missing Mark Scheifele. If that's the first thing a player is bringing up, you know it's a big deal. So Mark Scheifele not being on the Jets is a massive miss. So for any non-Mark Scheifele truther out there that thinks this man can be replaced,
break yourself, fool!
Because Mark Scheifele cannot be replaced right now on the Jets, even by Nick Ehlers. Nick Ehlers has a phenomenal game. I thought Ehlers was great. I mean, he is the most dynamic winger on the Jets by far, even over Kyle Connor. His skill with the puck is amazing. Nick Ehlers does things that are just unbelievably fun to watch, and he's a super critical component of the Jets, and analytically, he is better than Scheifele. But centers drive this game more than wingers. And we've seen times where Scheifele has been out and Ehlers has been in, and the Jets still struggle. Now, the Jets do struggle when Ehlers is out and Scheifele is in, but less. So those two are very key, important cogs, and it is super important to the Jets that they're able to have Kyle Connor, Nick Ehlers, and Mark Scheifele in the lineup night in and night out. Those three are very hard to replace for the Jets, but Scheifele, by far, outside of Connor Hellebuck, is the most important cog for the Jets and the engine for all the players. The defense for the Jets. Let's talk about Morrissey and Schmidt and everybody else. Josh Morrissey looks like himself again. This is the Josh Morrissey that we remember from 2 years ago with Trouba. Morrissey's going to have a big year this year. He should have had 2 goals, could have had 3. Nate Schmidt allows Josh Morrissey to play the game that he was able to play with Jacob Trouba. Morrissey is back. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with, and that is going to be a true number 1 and number 2 pairing. Easy. Brendan Dillon fits in fine. Neil Pionk looks solid. And the bottom 3 of Stanley DeMello look great. That 6 is set. Hellebuck today, terrible game by Hellebuck. His head wasn't in it. You could clearly see it. This wasn't Helly's finest moment. Sure, there's bounces here and there, phenomenal tips, but that's not the Connor Hellebuck that we expect. When you look at John Gibson on the other side of the ice, stealing the game, making saves that were just impossible, that is what you expect from $6 million a year and one of the 2 best goalies in the NHL between Hellebuck and Vasilevsky. Sure, you can't do it every night, but you do expect a little bit more from franchise goalies like that. So it's not totally his fault the Jets lost. You got to score goals, but you do expect more from Hellebuck. That's a very logical conclusion to come to in that game. A couple big things to note for the Ducks. Jamie Drysdale is an elite defenseman. This guy is going to step into the top 30 really quickly. He's going to be a top defense. He's going to join guys like Adam Fox and Cale Makar as one of the best young core defensemen in the league. Jamie Drysdale is phenomenal. Trevor Zegras looks really good at center as well too. He is a true number 1 center. He's just very, very young. So these 2 guys are going to grow into future captains and alternates for the Ducks. I mean, they're just so good already at such a young age. All right, so we've covered the Jets' physicality and their rough stuff at the game. We've covered the missing Mark Scheifele. We've covered the power play to a point. Pierre-Luc Dubois in the middle. I said we would get to this. I like Luc Dubois in the middle, but I like him on power play too. Mark Scheifele needs to be on that power play. He wasn't there. Connor alluded to it right away, and you could see it. Yes, the Jets got chances, but you got to be able to bury it, and having a guy like Scheifele there just changes it totally, especially in the middle. When it comes to the Ducks and who they're going to cover, Luc Dubois just isn't the same threat in the middle that Scheifele is. What I do love, though, is that Blake Wheeler is now on his off wing. That's fantastic. I love that Kyle Connor's on his off wing. Those are 2 good shooters to have there. I personally would prefer Nick Ehlers Wheelers instead of Blake Wheeler over there. That's an unpopular opinion in my circle. It's an unpopular opinion in some circles. It's a very popular opinion in others. Wheeler's a really controversial player with the Jets now in his twilight years. I think Nick Ehlers drives more on that power play than Wheeler does, but I'm fine with Wheeler being there. It's like, it's okay. This isn't going to cost the Jets anything. So I like him on his off wing better that way. I just think Nick Ehlers is a more dynamic player to have on the power play, and he adds that one more level of threat for the Winnipeg Jets. He just needs more time. Yes, he's on power play too. People talk about you have to have 50-50 power plays. Not really in today's NHL. You can run power play 1 at 75%. Maurice does that. So if Maurice is going to commit to his power play 1 with that amount of time, then Ehlers needs to be on the first power play, in my opinion. But Wheeler is also fine. So you really can't go wrong. It's like picking Team Canada in that sense. I just edge towards Ehlers on that. Cole Perfetti. Told you I'd get to this kid. This kid is NHL ready. Cole Perfetti is NHL speed. He has NHL talent. Cole Perfetti needs to play in the middle 6 for the Winnipeg Jets. Not on the bottom 3, not on the top 3. The middle 6. This guy needs relevant minutes with the Winnipeg Jets. Yes, there's some veterans that could go in that could help the Jets more than Perfetti in the first 40 games, especially from a defensive standpoint, because they know the pro system better than Perfetti does. But this is the time for Maurice to invest that 40 games into Perfetti. You invest those 40 games into him right now, and the back 40 games for Perfetti are going to be monstrous, including the playoffs. You cannot replace the experience he can get with Winnipeg down in the AHL with the Moose. You can't continue to wait for players like Kopp to step aside to put guys like Perfetti in. You need guys like Perfetti pushing guys like Kopp in the top 6 to stay there, because he's a lot of talent and he can do that. So Perfetti needs to stick with the Jets. I'm fully convinced of that. He's going to make a ton of mistakes on the defensive side of the puck, but this is something that Winnipeg should take on the chin in order to see out the longer picture. Perfetti needs to stay in this lineup. Who you take out doesn't really bother me. Who you take out in the bottom 4. Perfetti needs to be there. Will he be there? Probably not. Maurice is going to find a way to not put him in there. He'll get sent down to the A after 7 games. That's just the way it goes, but it's the wrong play. 40 games invested into this guy. He is NHL ready right now. Perfetti looked so good in this game. All right, Jets fans, let me know what you think of Ehlers on power play 1. Let me know what you think of Perfetti in the middle 6 going forward. Let me know, do you agree? Is Mark Scheifele the engine that drives the Jets? Talk to me about Connor Hellebuck. How are you feeling after this loss? And talk to me, do you think this is a really important 2 points? Do you agree with me that there's going to be a logjam in the Central? Or am I way overreacting to 2 minor points? The Jets will, I promise you they will do this. They will pick up 2 points all over against teams they shouldn't. They'll go on an Eastern run where they get really hot and maybe go on a 6-7 game win streak. They'll go ahead, they'll take down some of the top teams in the West like Colorado, Vegas, Edmonton. They'll steal games from those teams all over the place, but that isn't the point. The point is Stanley Cup caliber teams play at this level every game, night in, night out. And the Winnipeg Jets for the last 5 years have played down to these teams' level and given up key points against teams like Arizona, the Ducks, and bottom feeding teams in the NHL. And those 2 points make a massive difference when you are a 95 to 100 point team like the Jets are projected to be, or you want to push into that first place position with 105 to 107 points, because this will be a logjam in the Central. There's just too many good teams. So all these 2 points will matter, and it is very hard to steal 2 points from the teams you are rivaling when you give up these gifts that you are handed, especially on opening night. The day you don't have Mark Scheifele, the day you play an opening night game, you wanted the Ducks or the Coyotes. They got it, and they blew it. So they're going to have to find a way to recover those 2 points. But more importantly this year, watch closely, Jets fans. They are going to have to play at this level against the Yotes, against the Ducks, against the Kings, and against the Sharks. And they're going to need to put their foot on the throat of teams like that and come out with 3-1, 4-1 victories over teams like that. You cannot be in close games with bottom feeding teams if you want to contend for the Cup. Just ask the Leafs. And that's not a shot at the Leafs. It's a shot at the Leafs, but it's the same story, different conference. 2 talented teams, 2 different sides of the pond, if you will. Both loved franchises in Canada. Hard time closing when it comes to that. And that's because you need to play at this level all year in order to capture Lord Stanley's Cup. This has been Coach Ryan D. We'll catch you Saturday night for Game 2.